Very good. We now recognize the representative whose name gets screwed up the most, Representative Olszewski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Mast and Ranking Member Meeks, for holding this hearing. Thank you to Undersecretary Rogers for your presence today. As has been noted, this is our first hearing since the President forced us into a war with Iran. And make no mistake, this is a war. The President has said as much himself. We've lost American service members. We've lost a lot of resources. This will be a protracted military engagement. The President hasn't ruled sending boots on the ground. We expect a supplemental budget request, and I believe Americans will be asked to pay billions of dollars in support of this fight. Iran is a brutal and repressive regime. They cannot be allowed to have nuclear weapons. Strikes and wars are sometimes justified, but the Constitution demands congressional approval. Instead, this war has been started with no congressional authorization, no public debate, no clear evidence of an imminent threat, no coherent plan for what comes next, and no explanation of how these strikes are in the best interests of Americans. Undersecretary, you said something recently to a colleague I'd like to repeat. If you can't hear what your campaigning elected officials want to say, if you can't rally people to support your cause or debate you if they oppose you, then you don't have a democracy. I couldn't agree with you more. How true that is, but also how sad that those that you report to, including President Trump, fail to operate that way with Iran and in other places. And as has been pointed out, as the war rages on, I think it's unconscionable that the State Department didn't have a plan before the strikes to evacuate Americans from harm's way. I have to imagine that layoffs have only worsened this administration's response. Farsi and Arabic-speaking foreign service officers have been let go. The Consular Affairs Bureau has been hit hard by rifts, and reports suggest that the FBI fired a dozen agents and staff from counterintelligence units tasked with monitoring threats from Iran just days before the attack. So let's be consistent in our values. If we're going to talk about protecting national security and prioritizing diplomacy, which I support, let's not be silent as the President starts wars of choice. Turning to your work, Undersecretary Rogers, I want to start by asking if you agree that community colleges play an important role in advancing the State Department's mission to shape an international environment where all Americans can thrive.
I think all of our higher education infrastructure can if we engage properly.
That's great. Thank you for that. And I agree. I think community colleges are super helpful. It's why I was proud to work with Chairman Mast and his team to include report language during the State Department reauthorization effort to require the Assistant Secretary for Educational and Cultural Affairs to brief Congress. After going back and forth for about 2 months, we finally did get such a briefing scheduled, and so we thank you for that. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you and your team for working closely with my staff to get something on the books. It was a little frustrating, I'll admit, Undersecretary, to get that going, but I do appreciate you finally getting it scheduled. I was also shocked when I learned that there may be an effort to move this request out of the State Department and into the Department of Education, in part because I thought this was an administration that was abolishing the Department of Education. So I wanted to ask, are there ongoing conversations or efforts within the State Department to move some ECA programs to the Department of Education?
Not to which I'm party. We do have some interagency agreements and conversations with the Department of Education. Those have generally focused on streamlining and enhancing and augmenting those capabilities, usually by centralizing them under state, but it's possible there's some mutual exchange. So for example, I've acquired the Section 117 of the Higher Ed Act capability to investigate and hold to account universities that don't comply with their transparency obligations vis-a-vis foreign money. That's obviously, I wanted to mention that earlier, very important on the foreign malign influence front. We've also acquired, there were some English language programs that were kind of divided between education and state, and it didn't really make sense, and we're moving to bring those under state. I'm not aware offhand of anything moved from state to ed, but it sounds like there are staff briefings ongoing, and I'd be happy to
If we
get
can
back
follow
to
up,
you
that'd be
with
great.
anything,
I
yeah.
appreciate that. And just as I wrap my last 45 seconds here, I'll note that the fiscal year 26 solicitations for the Community College Administrator Program were recently posted. I wanted to also thank you for that. We are still waiting for the solicitations for the Community College Initiative Program, the CCI. And so just want to reaffirm our support of that and that we hope to see that happen soon. And again, with that, we thank you for your time, your presence, and Mr. Chairman, with that, I yield back.